Greetings. This is an overview of where I'm getting started on my next project. Well, I've already started, but here's where the main area is going to begin. This is back area is where I usually have a dining table, and then this old thing in the window is the air conditioner, and my fridge is over here. What's happened is that the fridge is actually scratched up the floor. And I found out afterwards it's because the fridge actually has 2 wheels and 2 sleds and not 4 wheels like I originally guessed, unsuccessfully. And so what I'm doing now is I'm filling in all the scratches and gaps and then putting some putty in between any of the gaps in between the dry wood, and then I'll sand that all down and put down a fresh layer of the stain. And the color I have is a nice dark red, and so it'll be nice and dark down here. Nice contrast for all the light colors up throughout here. Okay, so the progress here is I put down more putty and more of this wood filler. And once it dries, I'm going to sand it down, and then it'll be ready for the stain. I just tried to make it smooth everywhere, and I have a little bit too much here, so I'll be sanding that down a little bit before I get started on this. I also went to the hardware store, and I picked up one of these pieces for the baseboard here. So I'll be attaching that. It'll look a lot nicer. And right here I'll cut a little piece to get it rounded off. But I have to go back to the hardware store because I bought the wrong size saw blades. So the first test is done. This is with the new color from what I was using before. This is the gun stock color of the Varathane brand wood stain, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. It's a little bit darker than what I had before, and it's covering up the places where I filled in the gaps very nicely. Over here, this now that I've sanded it down, you can tell where the scratches are much more easily now, but hopefully all of these marks will sort of disappear after I stain it. It'll all look the same color. So I taped it up, and then over here I did not tape it because I also have another piece of wood that I'm painting to go along this piece of the wall. Okay, so I did more of the floor here. As you can see, it's a lot shinier. And over here, the scratches are still pretty visible, but I'm going to go over that with another layer. I don't expect them to disappear completely, but I think after another layer, they will be a lot less noticeable. The trouble is going to be getting the fridge over out of this corner without making more scratches, because that's now that I know how to move it without scratching the ground. Hopefully that won't be a problem. So I moved the fridge over to the corner, and I went underneath. I thought that the wood was a lot worse down there, but it turned out it was just dirty. So it's still wet right now, so it looks a little darker, but there's a few places I'm going to put a little bit of filler in there. And then over here is where it's the worst, is the scratches. And it looks like over here there's some mold getting into the wood. So I think it might be best to sand that down a bit before I put some filler down. Or just forget the filler altogether and just sand as much of that mold off as I can, and then cover it with some of the stain, And then a little problem I came across over here is that this is a brand new scratch. Did that when I moved the fridge over here. And I thought I knew what I was doing moving the fridge, but apparently I'm still scratching the floor, which is terrible because part of that's the part of the floor I already treated. And then now I have more work to do. So I don't know. That's not very deep. Maybe I could sand it out. But with this fridge, I'm gonna see if I can tip that over. Maybe get underneath there. Maybe I could put some kind of a bumper or something on there to make it so it's not so rough on the ground. Because I think it's just a piece of metal that's pushing down into the ground and making those scratches. I turned the fridge on side, and what looks like down underneath is there's two wheels in the back, but in the front there's no wheels, which I thought was odd. But it also looks like there is a place for the wheels to go, and I don't know how I would get. They're like flat casters that attach on a bar across the bottom, and they probably need a certain size bolt, and I don't know where I would find that. So I just picked up these things right now. These aren't really for a refrigerator. They're plastic and felt, but they have these little metal pieces that go in. They actually hammer into wood, but I'm not using it as wood. I think this is about the same size as the hole on the bottom of the metal frame on the fridge. So I'm going to put some hot glue on this, and then that metal ring should keep it from sliding around. And the hot glue should keep it in place. It should stop scratching the damn floor. Because otherwise I'll get stuck in an infinite loop of moving this thing and fixing the floor and moving the thing back, and that doesn't sound like fun. And that's how I get underneath it. Oh my god. Some of the cracks are filled in now, and I did as much as I could. I ran out of the wood putty. This is pretty much the worst of it though. Here, the biggest cracks. It looks really messy right now, but it's going to look better when I sand it down. I also went underneath the fridge, and then I tried to stick two of these in here. But the problem was this metal piece, it was just a little bit too big for that hole that was underneath. So I just ended up, I tried to bend it to make it smaller, and I broke it off, and I did that twice. So I just ended up sticking both of these on there with some hot glue without the metal piece in the middle. And it should stay. The only time it'll get a shear force on it is when I move this thing, which hopefully it will never be again after I finish this floor. Man, it's a pain in the butt. But yeah, every once in a while I'll go back there to clean it. It was dusty. Oh my. Drying, 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 drying. The floor is dry now. And I did a lot more work than I needed to over in this corner, considering that it's just going to be behind the fridge. But it looks a lot nicer. I cleaned it up, and I chopped away some of that extra foam that was there that from before when I plugged up a hole that was underneath this cupboard, and then sealed it up. The only problem I really had was over here. So the cupboard is on top of these, and it's holding them down, but these are not as secure, and so when I step on it, it breaks apart the gap filler that I put in there. So I'm gonna have to keep working on that. But I think I'm gonna try a couple more things, and then I will go over that again when I do the rest of the kitchen. And but as for the rest of it, it all looks really good. As you can see, the scratches are far less noticeable. they're still there, but in terms of making the floor look nicer, I'm very happy with the results. At some time, maybe in the future, I will have the whole thing sanded down and get all those scratches out permanently, but for now, it looks a lot nicer. The only thing left is to get the fridge moved back over and then get this last piece of the baseboard down right here. And here is the finished product. The floor is looking really nice, and I did get the last little piece of the floorboard there. I have a little bit more work to do here, and I'm going to put a little bit into the corner here and fill that in. And other than that, though, well, there's a lot of little things. I keep seeing things that, like, oh, I could make this look a little nicer here and there. But every project needs to be finished. And the way to do that is to just say, it's good enough. And so, it's good enough. I'm done.